Welcome back friends. In this video, I'm going to show you what are loops and the different types of loops. Repeated execution of the same set of commands, like assigning values and running conditional statements, is called a loop. There are many kinds of loops, but in this video, I'm going to show you two types, which are while loop and for loop. A loop has three parts. Initialization. You give the variable a first value for it to initiate the looping process. Condition. You give the condition for that variable, and incrementing, you increase the value of the variable by certain number so that the loop can continue the specified number of times. Now let me show you an example of the while and for loops. Okay, so print the numbers from 1 to 10. This is what we want to do. Printing the numbers from 1 to 10. Instead of writing print 1, print 2, we can do num equal to 1 while num is less than equal to 10. Print the value of num is equal to num and num equal to num plus 1. So now this part of the code, num is equal to 1, is initializing, and this part is condition, and num is equal to num plus 1 is incrementing. You run it. So as you can see, the value of num is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The same way, if I do num is equal to num plus 2, you should be able to see the difference. It's going to be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. That is, all the odd numbers are printed. But now if I do num is equal to 0 and do it, then the even numbers are printed: 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And now if I print this out of the tab space, then you see the difference. Print the value of num is equal to num. If I write this here and do num is equal to num plus 1, only the total is going to come out. So I think you must have understood uh, what happens when the print is inside the tab and when it is outside the tab. And now the same thing: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I hope you understood how to print the numbers from 1 to 10. Now if we want to add all the numbers from 1 to 10, so we should take another variable called tot is equal to 0, and then tot will be equal to the tot plus num. So the so instead of this statement here, we will write print the total is equal to tot. So it adds bit by bit, as in 1, then 1 plus 2, then 1 plus 2 plus 3, and it goes on. But if we want to print the grand total, we have to take this out of the tab and uh, do it here. And now, as you can see, the total is equal to 55. So I hope you understood what the while loop is. Now, moving on to the for loop. So if we give a variable num is equal to 0 for num in range. So a range should be given. That is, which is the least number there is. So least number we want it to be 0. So for num in range 0, comma, what do we if we want the highest number to be 10, we write 11 over here because the highest number is reduced by 1, and then the third value over here is incrementing. So if we write 1, and this is the same example I'm showing you, printing numbers from 1 to 10. Now print the value of num is equal to num, and now you run it. 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. But if you just forgot to initialize this loop, the for loop, and you run it, it still will work because you have given the range for the variable num over here. So if I do 100 over here and do it 110, 111 here and run it, as you can see 100 to 110 has been printed. So I hope you understood what the for loop is. So the differences between both loops. While loop is a loop which is performed when a certain condition is given, and for loop is a range loop with the lowest and highest number given. So I showed that to you in the code. Then syntax of the loop: while num and the condition is given, that is like num is less than equal to 10, greater than equal to 10. And the syntax for the for loop is for num in range, and range is given like 0 11 incrementing by 1. And then in the while loop, when the condition is not given, it shows an error. But in the for loop, as I showed you, when the loop is not initialized, it gives the result related to the range of the loop. So, and there is another loop which is called an infinite loop, which is caused by a mistake by the coder. So let me just code this, and let's just say num is equal to 1 while num is greater than equal to 1, print the value of num is equal to num, and num is equal to num plus 1. And when you run it, you can see that the loop just goes on and on and on without any end. So this is called an infinite loop, and this occurs when the coder has done a mistake, that is not written the conditions properly. So I hope you understood what the infinite loop is. Now let me show you few more examples of the while and for loop. So in the while loop, if we want to add the first 10 odd numbers, so TOT is equal to 0, but instead of this 1 over here, we increment it by 2. The odd numbers are printed. So the total is 25. That is 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. And if we want to add the even numbers, if this 1 over here, put a 0 and run it. As you can see, the total is 30. 0 plus 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 10. Now doing this with the for loop. For loop. Okay, so a minute. Let's take a num equal to 0. Range 0 to 11. Increment by 2. TOT is equal to 0. Okay, now TOT is equal to TOT plus num, the value of the total is equal to TOT. And now when you run it, the total is equal to 30. That is, the sum of even numbers is equal to 30. But if I make this num 1 and this range 1, if you change this but you forget to change the range, it's still going to print the same thing, because it depends on the range. The loop depends on the range. So if I make this 1, save it and run it, you can see the total is equal to 25, the same result as it came in the while loop. Now moving on to two tasks. The first task, the user should input the number and you should print the table of that number. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. You may pause the video for more time. Now moving on to solving the first task. So user should input the number and you should find out the table of that number. So num is equal to integer input, enter the number for the table to be calculated. Val is equal to 1 and another variable I. So val is the number to which this num should be multiplied. So for I in range 1, 11, 1, and this I is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We want this printed, so this variable I is used. So print num into I equal to num into val, and val is equal to val plus 1. So here val is also incremented so that num multiplies itself 10 times. No, num multiplies with val 10 times, not itself. And now you run it. So let's take a simple table, two table first. And as you can see, the table has been printed over here. Now let's try a table of a bigger number like 89. As you can see, this table is also being printed. So I hope you understood how to solve this. If not, you can practice some more sums or problems like this. Now going on to the second task. Make a number generator game giving 5 turns to the player in guessing the number. You can make the number in between 1 and 100, 1 and 50, 100 and 200, and you just remember to write that in the print statement above so that the player knows where to guess that number. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds for this again. You may pause the video for more time. Now moving on to solving the second one. So print welcome to the number generator. Please enter a number only between 1 and 100. I have made it between 1 and 100. You can do it between any other number if you want to. So now this is a val, is a number the player should find out. So you just assign a value to val a equal to 1. This is for initializing the while loop. While a is less than equal to 5, that is giving 5 turns to the player. Num is equal to integer input enter a number. If num equal to val, print congratulations, you have guessed the correct number, and write break after that. That is to break the code from giving the same input statement again, and it stops the game right there. Then elif num greater than 100 or num less than 1, because I have given only between 1 and 100. If this happens, print please enter a number only between 1 and 100. Elif num greater than val, print please enter a smaller number. Else print please enter a larger number. This else is the condition for num smaller than val. So as you can see, these are all conditional statements inside the while loop. Then incrementation a is equal to a plus 1, so that it can run 5 times. You can increase the number of chances you want to give to the player just by meddling with this number. So now, and then at the end write print the correct number was equal to val. So now let's run the loop and check. So if I write the correct number in the first try, congratulations, you have guessed the correct number, and it does not give any other input statement like enter a number. So this is where it broke, and that's where how the break statement is used. Now moving on to the different ways. So if I write 111 by mistake, it says please enter a number only between 1 and 100. If I write 0 by mistake, it will say the same thing, number only between 1 and 100. If I do 56, please enter a smaller number. If I do 45, please enter a larger number. 89, please enter a smaller number, and at the end it will give the correct number was equal to 49 or val. So I hope you were able to solve this task also. Before we close the session, I would like to make a few additions here. The incrementer that we call can be used to decrement the number, and a reverse loop can be created. We will have to appropriately specify the conditions so that the loops are executed. I will be showing you decrementation in both while and for loops with these changes. Now, while loop. Printing the numbers from 10 to 1. Num is equal to 10, while num is greater than 0. That is the condition, or else it will run into an infinite loop if we keep decrementing it by -1. Then print the num is equal to num. Num equal to num minus 1. So here we are decrementing the value. So when we run it, you can see the result to be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The same way in the for loop. For num in range 10, 0 and -1. So 10 is the number, then 0 is the final number. So if 0 is the final number, then it's going to be 10 to going to 1, because it is always 1 less or 1 more than the final number. When we are decrementing it, it's going to be 1 more, but while we are incrementing it, it's going to be 1 less over here. So print the num is equal to num. So here again 987654321. So I hope you understood what is decrementation. In Now in this slide I'm going to explain to you what happens at the back of the while loop. So we write, so this is the code written: num is equal to 1 while num is less than equal to 5. Print the value of num is equal to num equal to num plus 1. So value of num is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this code, what happens in the back loop? So it takes the num as 1. So it is less than equal to 5, that is 2. So print is going to be 1. So the new number formed at the end of this loop is going to be 2 because it is num plus 1. Same way in the second loop, num is equal to 2. Condition is satisfied, so true. Then print num is going to be equal to 2, and num plus 1 is equal to 3. The same way it happens. Then in the fifth loop, num is going to be equal to 5. So it is equal to 5. So it's going to be true again. And print num is going to be equal to 5. Num plus 1 is 6. But 6, the condition is not satisfied. So Python says that this cannot be satisfied and it exits the loop. And that's the reason only 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 are printed. And over here in the while loop, we have the option of less than or less than equal to. If it was only less than over here, then it would have exited the loop at 5 only. So the result would be 1, 2, 3, 4. In the for loop, the num value will always be less than the final value. So it's always going to be less than 5 in the for loop. You have no choice of less than or less than equal to. I hope you understood what are loops and the different kinds of loops. Thank you for watching my beginner's course. In my next video, I'll show you how to make a simple calculator which covers most of the concepts that I showed you in my beginner's tutorial.